What's up everyone, Jonas here for Thomann synthesizers. Perhaps some of you know me a little bit by now already and know that I love basslines. I don't know what's actually about it, but I think basslines add a lot of character and grit and warmness and of course groove to your production. And I think in fact with the character and the style of bassline you can create really fast different genres. And actually I love listening to a lot of genres, to a lot of different stuff. I guess it started like 2 years ago that I became not obsessed but so much interested in listening to everything what's out there, like old stuff, new stuff, niche stuff. I try to listen to everything and find the bits I like. And I think using different genres in your own production makes your sound become your sound. So I like to use some influences by jungle, of course, techno, house, garage, and everything in between, and to find your stamp and your way on creating specific elements, I think makes the sound yours. So in today's video I want to focus only on basslines. I want to break down how I make and compose basslines for techno, house music, post-dubstep kind of, and electro. So yeah, let's get it started. So I started making music with techno, and I did techno for a longer time actually. Still, I think techno can be really interesting because it's so physical, and of course you have to translate this to the style of bassline. And perhaps in techno music the most used bassline synthesizer, I guess, is the legendary SH-101 by Roland, like the bassline synthesizer overall, I guess. And I have it here, not quite the original, but the boutique version, the SH-1A, and I'm going to use it to create a kind of polyrhythmic, groovy bassline. I've created a really short loop using Ableton's internal 909 and a sample, which will go like this. So let's use the bassline on it. What did I do here? Let's go backwards, and I've used the LFO in a specific rate to have this kind of polyrhythmic groove going on. Without the LFO it would sound like this. So you can adjust using the LFO to create really interesting rhythms, in my opinion. Sets the groove in a really interesting character on its own. So an LFO is really useful and helpful for this one. Perhaps a little bit faster rate, let's check it out. Also interesting. Here you have the chance to work with 3 different waveforms, the square wave, triangle and the sub-oscillator, because I think using basslines in techno music, it's all about the punch and the physique, I guess. You know, that you feel it in the club, that you have like this wall of sound like really pushing you in the belly. And for this one we don't use the square or the triangle. So just use the sub-oscillator. The triangle will sound like this. Just too thin. I mean, we can turn it down in the octave, but still it's not doing the job. So we use the sub-oscillator. So for the envelope, pretty classic actually. We can also use a longer attack. So you have to go into the kick. That's working pretty well as well. Here we have just the really shortest attack, a lot of decay. So we have this bulky kind of punch. For the filter, I'm using the keyboard increaser. In there you need a really subtle low end and of course overtones for the listening experience. But still overall it's about the punch and the sub. And yeah, increasing a little bit of the modulation. And we use the filter envelope because otherwise it's nothing, because I closed, almost closed the cutoff. So I think we are fine here. And a little bit of resonance, we can increase the punch in the lows. And this is really important for techno, so you have a lot of punch. Yeah, again, because it's really important for techno to have a subtle punch in the lower frequencies. Alright, next up, let's focus on a little bit more happier side of dance music. Let's do some house. For this one, I'm using the Korg MS-20 Mini because I think you can have excellent results with overtones and low frequencies at the same time. When you are creating bass lines for house music, I think it's really important to understand the genre, and a lot of the overall composition of a house track is coming from a kind of melodic bass line. So you have the opportunity, of course, to work with arpeggiator, or you can write your own bass line according to the chords you're using for your track. And I think it's really describes it well when you have a percussive kind of bass line in house music. How to create this? Well, I'm using two VCOs here. Let's check out the first one. Actually, the funny thing is, and I've did a little bit of research, and a lot of Korg MS-20, perhaps all of them, I don't know, but have, let's say, good components and bad components. And those which are using the bad components from China, they have kind of a noise which is not in the first VCO and not in the second, and it's not a noise floor overall of analog synthesizers, so it's just coming when you use or pressing the keys. So this would be the sawtooth, but I think the triangle is able to offer us a lot more punch and low frequency. So let's add the second VCO. Go for maybe the square wave, has a nice character to it. And actually that's it for sound designing, because I think if you keep it classy and easy, then you always come up with a great result. I became more interested on the UK side of club and dance music. So I was really looking forward to share some tips for post-dubstep basslines. To create a bassline for post-dubstep, I think it's fairly way more easy to use a laptop and a DAW than a hardware synthesizer. Let's start off with the basic drum loop for our a bass line in post-dubstep for me has several parts. For this one, we are going to start with the, let's say, bigger bass line in Serum. And all I did is actually using the first oscillator, a square wave, and the second oscillator, you can choose something which is kind of weird, a little bit weird tonal, let's say. You add character from the second to the first oscillator. So let's check it out. This would be the bass line without any processing. Here you can see a little bit of release for the envelope, but the shortest possible attack. We will increase the unison spread because then we can make it thicker and wider, of course. Let's check out the second oscillator. So here I've increased a little bit the modulation coming from the second oscillator. It's the AM from B, so it's amplitude modulation. And you notice there's a little bit of movement inside it because we have a lot of LFO. Actually, I'm just using the first LFO set to a sine wave. And with the different notes, I typed in different rates of the LFO. So it's faster and slower. And this I assigned to various destinations, to the level of the oscillator, to the level of our noise, to add a little bit of crispiness, and of course to the filter. If you wouldn't use a filter, it would sound like this. Post-dubstep, or the bass lines in post-dubstep, are coming alive by movement. So we have to add this movement from the LFO to the filter. As you notice, we don't have any low end or lower frequencies with this bass line. As said, I want to split them apart. All I did was creating a second layer, just using the sub with a movement coming from the same LFO, the same rate, just one octave below, a clean sine. Yeah, so and together it would sound like this. So let's check it out together. One to go. Let's focus on electro. Speaking about electro, I think inside electro you have different styles of this genre. So reaching from kind of modern, really heavy club-focused electro by DJ Stingray until like something more trancey and vibey like Zanzibar. But there's also the old school side. I really like the classic Drexciya kind of electro, and this is what I want to create. I'm going to use Ableton to send MIDI notes to the 303. And if we look at the overlay, we are not able to do a lot of things actually, because we cannot adjust envelopes or certain kind of characteristics, but we are able to make a few. So let's start. In my opinion, the sawtooth is a lot more aggressive, and with the square wave you can easily reach more melodic results. Thinking about the genre of this old schoolish classic electro, I think we have to understand what the bass line is actually doing. So when you check out the composition of the track, then the bass line is not setting like a low punch groove or low frequencies, because we have our boom of the 808 sitting below this. So we are not creating a bass line which is like really low in the frequencies, because then it would like clinch with the 808, making more like a melodic pleasing atmosphere in the middle spectrum. And this we can create by leaving the cutoff a little bit more open and a little bit of resonance. And for the envelope mode we use a little bit, let's check it out. Alright, I think that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and that I could help a little bit with making bass lines. If you have any questions and thoughts, then please put it in the comment section and I will get back to you. So I will remain here and jam a little bit with the electro bass line. So thanks for watching and see you next time.